Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Creating Consciousness podcast. I'm your host, Lexi. So, wanted to kick off today's episode with some exciting news. I believe I mentioned either in yesterday's episode or the day before that I was going to be looking into trying to add our podcast onto multiple platforms. And I'm here with some excellent news that we are now on 8 podcasting platforms with 3 additional that are currently in review and should be uploaded within the next 24 to 48 hours. So the list of those podcasts, if you're listening on Spotify and not on Anchor houses all of the different links to each of these podcasting platforms. But if you typically listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Castbox, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, or Stitcher, all of those platforms now are inclusive of our podcast. So you can either search Creating Consciousness Podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, or again, the site Anchor houses all of the links to each of those podcasts. We are still pending edition and review on Google, Overcast, and iHeartRadio. But like I mentioned, those should be up and running within the next 24 to 48 hours. So, round of applause. That was a lot easier than I anticipated. So, it's a lesson there too. Obviously, sometimes the things that we're dreading that we don't want to do, they actually turn out to be pretty easy. So, without further ado, let's get into what our first topic. I always say first topic, y'all, but everybody knows here. We usually just cover one topic a day. So, our topic for today is going to be mindfulness. What is it? What does it mean? What does it look like? And how can we use it within our everyday practices to make our lives a little bit better? So with that, I hope you all enjoy today's episode. As always, please let me know. Send over any feedback, topic suggestions, or just general information to any of our social media links. And as always, those links will be included in the end of the episode. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, everybody, we are going to get into our breathwork practice. So find a comfortable space. Again, only if it's safe to do so. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and out. In and out. Last one. Okay, topic mindfulness. What is it? What does mindfulness mean? At its essence, I think, I probably could pull up a dictionary definition here, but in its essence, mindfulness is just the act of being mindful in the present moment. So how many times, show of hands here, how many times have you been driving home, maybe the same commute that you take every single day into the office, and how many times do you find yourself totally zoned out, and before you realize it, you've driven 30 miles down the road and just snap out of it and you're like, whoa, where did I just go? Or a lot of us, maybe we're eating dinner or eating a meal. Breakfast, I think, is very common for most of us, especially those of us working in corporate or regular 9-to-5 type situation jobs where, you've got a million and one things on your mind. You're trying to sit and enjoy your coffee. You're trying to enjoy your breakfast. Maybe you're reading the newspaper, or more likely than not, what I find for a lot of individuals, myself included, you're sitting there on your phone and you're just mindlessly scrolling whatever social media app that you have up. For me, it's Instagram. I know for a lot of the younger generation, it's TikTok, whichever platform that you frequent. And before you know it, you've eaten your entire breakfast and you didn't even taste it. And you spent all this time making it, but you didn't even get to enjoy it. Or maybe you're doing the laundry or some other relatively mundane task that you do all the time, and your brain switches to neutral, and before you know it, your task is done and you don't even know what you just did. It's like you did it on autopilot. So the act and presence of being mindful, the practice of being mindful, it takes us out of the natural pattern that our brains typically do. And none of this is to say, oh, this is all horrible and this is bad or anything like that. But I think if you are somebody that is looking to bring more fulfillment, more gratitude, more presence into your life, being mindful in the moment, that has a huge impact and shift on the way that maybe you typically think. I used to be somebody that every time that I made a meal, I'd have to sit and watch something on TV. Literally did not matter what it was. When I worked in corporate and it was the middle of the day and I was taking my lunch break while I was working from home, I'd turn the TV on and, oh, what do you know? Judge Judy. Great. Excellent. Let me eat my food and watch Judge Judy, and I'm not even going to be present for the act of consuming this fuel for my body. It's a natural occurrence for our brains to shift into this autopilot. Most of us know that, especially those of us like me that studied psychology. It's actually a hardwired mechanism for our brains, something that we evolved with and into over multiple lifetimes, going from hunter-gatherer species, and now here we are with all sorts of new 21st century worries and concerns, issues, things piling up on our plates, and our brain shifts into autopilot when it can afford to. It's a little scary that it does it while we're driving, but it does. One of the ways that you can start to change your perspective on the here and now, whatever your present moment is to practice mindfulness. Things that help you get there are activities like yoga, any type of cardio where you kind of have to endure a steady state rhythm, something of that nature, and breath work. Breath work is huge. That's why breath work is, in my opinion, the key to everything. If you're somebody that finds that they don't have success meditating, try breath work. It's something that I've recommended for quite a few people. And when they take me up on it, they come back and they say, hey, that really worked well for me. I've been struggling with trying to meditate for a really long time because I know that meditation's good for me, but I just get so bored. Like I can't stay focused on meditation. So if that sounds like you, try breath work. Anything to actively keep your mind engaged. So how can we do that when we're doing things as seemingly mundane as driving a typical commute to work, or cooking dinner like we always do, or a meal, or even then just consuming a meal? Start to notice the finer details of what happens in those moments. So in our example of driving, feel the way that the sun feels on your skin, maybe how the sunlight is reflecting off the road back into your eyes. Feel the coolness of the AC on your face or on your feet. Feel the way that the seat is pressing up against your body as you're driving down the road. Focus on the colors that you're seeing. Focus on the shapes, the textures. Make it a seemingly tactile, pleasurable experience for yourself. And keep practicing that. Every time that you practice these things, it starts to rewire and rewrite the way that your brain functions in those moments. So, for me personally, instead of going down the road and just completely zoning out, seemingly waking up and being like, oh, I guess I made it to my destination. I have no idea how I got here. Now I am fully present in each moment as I'm driving in a car, which obviously I think all of us should be, but there's something to be said for muscle memory and, especially those of us that drive very long distances. If you're used to driving long distances all the time for work or just in general, traveling, those of you that follow me on social media, or if you know me, you know that this summer we spent a lot of time traveling. I mean, we were gone from Colorado from the beginning of June, the end of May, the beginning of June, all the way until the beginning of August. We were gone for months from our house, and we spent the time traveling. Thankfully, we had the ability to do that. We ended up, Aaron went back home to visit with family, and I traveled with my family as well. And then we made it back here in August. And in almost all of those travels, I was driving. So I thankfully got my dad's genes in that. I don't mind driving. I actually really enjoy it. I enjoy driving long distances, especially. It's my favorite. So for us, when we travel, especially because we have our dogs, I'm definitely not taking Harper on a plane. There's no way. She's scared of her own shadow and very reactive, so it's not going to happen. But in those instances, I was driving, and most often I was driving us across the country or multiple different states in a day. If we could, sometimes, Kansas takes an entire day, but I digress. In those scenarios and situations, instead of zoning out and not paying attention to what I was doing, kind of just letting my, muscle memory take over, and I don't know, thinking about anything, right? What we're going to eat that day, what hotel or Airbnb we're going to stay at, or, worried about whatever other stressors are going on in my life. Instead, I focused on the moments when I was in that car, the moments of having conversation with Aaron, the moments of listening to music, the moments of feeling the sun giving me sunburn on my arm or on the side of my face or my neck or anything like that. So in those moments, see if you can challenge yourself to step out of what is seemingly your norm and come back to yourself into each of these moments. And we talked about too, cooking dinner or any meal, really, for that matter, making any type of meal for yourself. There's a very huge correlation to the food that we put into our bodies and also the energetics around that. We'll put a pin on that. That might be another good topic for the future. But when you make food for yourself, with the intention of fueling your body, and you're making it with, totally on autopilot, without any intent or real focused intention behind it, and you're just making it out of pure muscle memory, like with driving, there's something to be said for consuming that fuel then for your body, because energetically you've now prepared a meal for yourself with the energetics of worry or stress or anxiety or anger or whatever it was that you were thinking about when you were actually preparing that food for yourself. Now your food is infused with all of that energy, and now you're consuming it. Do you see how that can be a cycle? So practicing mindfulness in these moments as well, especially, when you're preparing food for yourself, for others, it makes such a difference. It makes a difference in how your body is digesting it. It makes a difference in how your body's going to use the energy and the fuel to propel you throughout your day, get you ready for sleep, repair your muscles if you've been working out or be very active. Mindfulness really, in addition to pretty much everything else that we've been talking about over this last week or so, has been one of the key pieces for me that has absolutely radically shifted and transformed my life. Taking moments that I used to take for granted, like just eating the meal that I had prepared for myself, actually enjoying the textures of the meal, enjoying the way that the flavor works. I just did this recently too. For those of you that know me, I have been working with one of my mentors, Ashley, and she has been, channeling through spirit that I should be eating more in a ketogenic lifestyle. I had tried keto a while ago. I don't know, probably 6, 7, gosh, I hope it's not 8 years, but probably 7, maybe 8 years ago, to disastrous consequence. I did not do it the right way. I did it the typical, I think people are saying it's like the typical frat boy style, eating a lot of fat, a lot of bacon, a lot of not necessarily very good things for you anyway. So eating primarily that way. And I know from history that my body prefers when I eat very low carb. So I'm just one of those types of people. So today, for example, I prepared myself some, I think they're like little meat kebabs or something from a local rancher that we got our meat from. And I had some broccoli. I put a little bit of spice and flavor on it. And as with most meals, I prepared it with intention. I prepared it with the intention that it is going to fuel my body. My body will know exactly what to do with the fuel. It will, go towards nourishing my entire body without any problem. And I also infused some light language into it. Light language will be something that we definitely it will definitely be a topic that we cover for sure in a future episode. But I prepared this meal with the best of intentions and I sat down to eat it. And I think it took me probably like 25 minutes to eat it because it was a lot of food, a lot of good, clean food. But the point of this and bringing us back to our mindfulness topic, I sat and I really enjoyed all the flavors and the textures of the dish. Now, I'm sure some of us listening would think it's literally just meat and broccoli, like you're a weirdo, but I'm serious. The next time that you eat some food, whether or not it's a snack, it's your next meal, whatever it is, sit and actually give yourself the experience of being mindful in that moment. And you don't have to eat it any slower, any faster than you normally do. Just change the way that you are present in that moment. Because I guarantee if you start doing this, just start with one thing every day. So if you know that you have a tendency to zone out while you drive, try it while you're driving. If you have a tendency to zone out while you exercise, try it while you exercise. Zone out while you eat, do it while you eat, whatever it is, challenge yourself at least over the next 30 days. Very similar to breath work and, again, being present. Challenge yourself. Give yourself a little challenge and see how much it changes your perspective on things. Because I guarantee you that by replacing at least something with being mindful every single day, that's going to drastically shift your consciousness and the way that you see the world. I guarantee you. And I say that because I did it. So one of the big things that we mentioned was mindfulness, breath work, all of these types of connections. The way that we can start to utilize energy within our body and energy from the outside world is by being mindful. By being mindful to the way that you feel when you feel really good. Yeah, you're like, dang, I'm having a really good day today. Nothing can, get me down. I'm having a great day. If you could, you'd be dancing and, humming along to something or, whatever, just the best that you've ever felt. Recognize how that feels in your body. Be mindfully present in that moment and see how it feels. And then when you're in a situation that you don't feel good, being mindful and aware that you don't feel good, and maybe you might not be sure why, which is okay, that comes with practicing mindfulness. You can start to recognize when you're mindful, oh, I don't feel very good right now. I don't really know why. Maybe it's my energy. Maybe it's something that I picked up. Maybe it's somebody else's that I'm around. But in those moments, then that allows you to see, truly see and recognize what's you and what isn't. And that's how you start doing really big energy work. Because remember, we all have the innate ability to do these things. Every single one of us. Every single one of us. But if you're an individual listening to me right now and you're thinking, I don't know how to start, how do you do that? This is where it starts. These things that we've been talking about over the last 6 days, this is where it starts. So, we talked about a couple of different ways that you can be more mindful throughout the day. And I challenge you, each and every one of you listening, including myself, because I still have plenty of work to do on this, being present and mindful in the moment. Give yourself a challenge. If it's for a week, a few days, really challenge you to try it for 30 days. Anybody that knows the old adage, it takes 30 days to build a habit. So try it for 30 days and see what a difference that makes. We'll end our topic today on a story. Coming from corporate America, I became very used to not being present in the moment, because a lot of the jobs that I held within corporate required me to fire on all cylinders all day, all the time for 8 to sometimes 12, 13, maybe more hours a day. And it got me into a rhythm and a pattern where I didn't even know where to start. When other people would tell me, start with mindfulness, start with breath work, start with just recognizing your being, I totally had no idea what people were talking about. Because for me, I had been conditioned over multiple years, and like we discussed the other day, there's more to talk about on these pieces as well, of course, as there always is. But I think part of this too, and the reason why it's so difficult for most of us and a lot of us, is because it doesn't just happen at work. It happens from the time that we go into the education system. It happens from the time that we start, making friends and being social with other people. It's so deeply ingrained in our culture, and there's a reason to keep us all outside of our bodies, focused on something else instead of ourselves. There's a reason. So when I used to go on vacations and trips and things like that, most of the time I was so wrapped up in thinking and dreading and worrying and constantly filled with anxiety and dread about what I was going to come back to when I came back from my vacation. So much so to the point that I pretty much would never enjoy a vacation when I was in the moment because I was so worried about everything else. So one of the most recent vacations that I was on, I was with my dad. We were in Florida. I was with my dad and my brother. We were in Florida, and my dad brought out a kite. And I was like, oh, buddy, it's go time. I love kites. It was something that we used to do a lot when I was younger, both with my mom and my dad. And so I got really jazzed, really excited about this kite. I just let my inner child fly. She was so excited. And I actually paid attention to the way that I was feeling in the moment flying the kite. My dad showed it to me. It's a stunt kite, and it's probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. Truly. It has no rods or anything in it, so, the goal isn't to crash it and break it, but, if it happens, it's okay. And, we're flying it on the beach too. That was the coolest part, is that we were flying it on the beach. It was close to sunset, and it was a little cloudy. It wasn't too crazy, but a little bit cloudy. And I look up, and I'm just watching this kite. I'm like mesmerized by this kite, what it's doing, the flips and swirls and tricks and everything that's going on above me. I'm focused on that. I'm focused in the moment. And as I look up past the kite, just looking at the sky and the way that everything is, there's a huge rainbow behind it. It was almost as if, hey, this is your reward for staying present in the moment and focusing on what's going on around you. It may seem trivial or small, perhaps meaningless for some of you, but it was a really, really big deal. And it was a moment for myself to step back and see how far I've come. Because the Lexi, even just a year ago, if that same person had been standing there on the beach flying a kite, guaranteed I would have been doing the act, but my brain and my attention would have been somewhere else. I would have been worried about how many reports that I had to do when I got back from vacation. I would have been worrying about how many emails were in my inbox, how many voicemails I'd have to return, any number of things. And instead, in this moment, I was able to step completely within my body, be present and mindful in that moment. That is a memory that I will never forget. Thank you for joining me today. I am so excited that you all are here. I am so thankful and grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you so much to those of you that have reached out with suggestions, topics that you'd like me to cover in the future, feedback. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you all are having a wonderful Sunday. It is beautiful, cloudless, blue sky here in Colorado. It's a little crisp, but we're loving it. It's good fall time. I know there are a lot of us out there that watch football, so good luck to all of our teams today. And with that, namaste. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I hope you enjoyed. You can find me on Instagram. My profile name is Montoya Lex. It's MontoyaLex. That's my Instagram profile. And you can also send me any comments, feedback, suggestions, questions, or topics that you would like me to cover at creatingconsciousnessllc@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a wonderful rest of your day.